What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Fab, Freddie Fox, America's Big Brother, and we back with a Saturday Night Sit Down. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Fab, Freddie Fox, America's Big Brother, and today I'm here with Steve Lorrius. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing well, Freddie. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, man. I'm so happy to finally get you on here and sit down and have this conversation with you, man. It's been a long time coming. We tried this a couple weeks ago. Things came up, but now we're here, man. How you feeling?
I feel excited. I'm a little bit nervous. I haven't been around a lot of people in a while, but I'm excited to talk to you and have a good time.
Yeah, and I think that's most of this whole pandemic and everything like that, and just being locked up and stuff, and finally kind of getting out there and finally have these conversations. But as you know, man, I know you said you've listened to a couple episodes and stuff like that, man. The whole purpose of my show is this: I'm just trying to reach out to the younger generation to be able to help educate them and help them avoid the pitfalls that I fell into in growing up and finding my way into manhood. And by having conversations with men like yourselves and other people like that, maybe we can help give advice or some pointers and stuff like that to help avoid them from making the same mistakes that we have and help make it just a little bit easier in their path to becoming a man. So now, as I always start this up, and my very first question to everybody here is for you. If you sit down and think about it, what do you think are some of the main characteristics or qualities that make up a good man or a good person?
I would say two things. We were discussing it before we even came here. I think confidence and character are very important for a man because confidence is what's going to help you get through your day every single day. Even when you're getting beat up on and times are hard and you're struggling, confidence is what's going to help you get yourself out those trenches and just keep moving forward. And when you begin to lose yourself, you need character. Character is what's going to help you brush that dirt off your shoulder and continue to move forward and do it in a dignified manner. Winning is easy if you take any route that you want. But if you take the hardest route, the route that's designed for you, that's what character really is. That's where you become who you really want to be, the best person that you could be.
I think that's a good point, man. You know what I mean? We got to go through certain issues and problems and stuff like that. Like, life can't just be a simple cakewalk because you don't really know what kind of person you're going to turn out to be or where your morals are or what kind of person you are without really being tested. One of my favorite quotes, and I don't know if it's by Mother Teresa. I mean, that's what they said it is, but it's, God will never give me more than I can handle. I just wish he didn't trust me so much. You know what I mean? So we all have to go through certain things that it's designed for us, whether it's a good or a struggle. The whole point of it is to learn something. And if you didn't learn something from out of it, then really it was just a waste, I think. You know what I mean?
Well, that's true because every lesson brings you a step closer. It's like a baby that's learning to call for its food. It's going to yell as loud as it can, but it wants to be able to get up and get it on its own or climb that next step to go upstairs. It wants to be able to grow, and there's going to be times you're going to fall down the stairs, Even as a kid, my brother Jordan and I, we used to fall down the stairs a lot, and after a while, we started sliding down the stairs head first. We changed the whole dynamic to fear, You go from falling down to diving head first down the stairs. My parents didn't like that at all, but, kids will always be kids.
It's funny that you say that, like, about a kid trying to get his food, because immediately I thought about my son. My son is 2, man, and he is the biggest foodie that I've ever seen, and he knows he has his favorite snacks are like the little bites. And he knows where they are in the cabinet. He'll go start climbing and stuff like that. And that's one of the things is that I love to do is just watch my kids just to see how they really interact. Because like we said in the car, like I was just telling you, you know what I mean? Like, if kids don't learn the way we teach, then we should teach the way they learn. You know what I mean? So I sit there and I watch my kids and I watch how they interact with certain things and what really drives them. And like, for instance, my daughter is very, very hands-on. You know what I mean? Like, I can see my daughter's like me. Like, we're not into sitting down and really like reading a book to try to learn something. We got to be hands-on to do it, experience and mess around and see how things work, take things apart or whatever. So that's what I try to do with her so that she can see these things and then, just letting her go out there and do certain things and just watching how she interacts with the world so that, helps her, like we said, develop her character, develop her person and being and stuff like that. And I see that she's just becoming such a great people person. And it's just by that, just watching her and letting her go out and do those things and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
That makes sense because, like, as you watch her, she's watching you. So everyone's just mimicking each other. The mirror watches the mirror. So as she's watching you, she's growing and she's learning all these things, just like with your son. He sees where you put the snacks, so he knows exactly where to go get them. You know, they're studying you, they're studying your movements, because if you're not here, they still have to do something for themselves. And as you become better as a person, they become better. And that's why I always tell parents when I work with kids with sports or whatever I'm helping them with, really push yourself, because if you push yourself, that child is going to watch you and want to become just like you because they love you more than anyone. So you can't tell the kid to follow their dreams if you're not going to. And I've always preached that to parents. I'm like, you have to push yourself if you really want that kid to push themselves, because you don't want to be a hypocrite at the end of the day. And you are their biggest idol in this world.
No, I definitely can concur with that. And that's having my kids is one of the main reasons why I really started doing this podcast and doing all these other things and stuff like that, because just like that, you know what I mean? I can't tell my daughter or my kids to follow something if I'm not doing it myself. Yeah, you know what I mean? Agree. Like, and I was very, like you said, like you asked me before this, how do I deal with my nerves or with stuff like that, or just things that are uneasy and stuff. I mean, the biggest thing that I have right now is my kids, and that's why I do this, because I look at them and like, what kind of person do I want them to see me as? You know, how I want them to grow up, and like I do that like with my daughter. It's very different because, you know, having a son and a daughter, there's two different ways of raising, because you're teaching them two different things. You know, with my daughter, I'm teaching her what to look for in a man. You know what I mean? Like what to look for in that significant other. You know what I mean? Like it's 2020, whatever happens in the future happens. You know what I mean? But I'm teaching her the characteristics of what a good person is that she should look for. And then when it comes to my son, I'm teaching him how to be a man. You know what I mean? Like, and it's very, very different to explain and to teach. You know what I mean? Like, and making sure that they find those right things. And like you said that, like, you know, they're watching me constantly. And that's my relationship that I try to have with my kids. Now, with you, and I think like everybody else is just their relationship with their father, whether they're in their picture or whether they're not. So for you, like you're talking about your parents, when you're watching your father and stuff like that, what was your relationship with your dad like?
Well, first, I'm the youngest of 8. And, you know,
wow.
Yeah, both of my parents are together. So I'm the youngest of 8. So my dad's always been there, and my dad's very militant. He was in the army in Haiti, and he was a police officer in Haiti as well. So my dad was very strict growing up because, you know, growing up in the 80s and 90s was very different, you know, with crack and just everything. And I was raised on Connecticut Avenue, so the neighborhood was very different. So my dad was very strict when I was younger, and, you know, a lot of his ways, I didn't understand them. You know, he had this rule where if one person did something as a child, everyone suffered. So everyone would get in trouble. So it wasn't like, well, you did this or you did this. There was no arguing. So if I was going to do something, a sibling would look out for me. And I think that really taught me anything, because whenever I enter a room, I always feel responsible for that room, whether I'm the person in charge or not, because I know that if I go down or somebody else goes down, that I'm still responsible. I don't look away and decide that I'm not responsible for that moment. And that was one of the things that my dad instilled in me. But when I was younger, I didn't understand it. And my dad instilled a lot of things in me, a lot of things. Like even with running, like I come from a track and field family. Like my brother Jeff, my sister Joan, everybody in my family ran track. My brother Jordan, we all ran track, and most of them went all state. My brother Jeff, he won New England's, I believe, his junior year for West Hill. So nice. I come from that family. But my dad, he was my Superman long before I even got the nickname Superman. Like I couldn't beat him in a race until I was in like 9th grade. And in 8th grade, I was faster than every kid in the city, because they would bring us to Turner River and everybody would race. So you know where you're at. And I'd race people from the time I was a kid. And my dad had me when he was, I think, 47.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he had me old. So he didn't have me young. So for me to be in 8th grade and this guy is probably like close to 60 and I can't beat him in a race is extreme, meaning, and he used to tell me all the time, he was like in the army, he was like, he loves training and like running and moving. He was like, that was his thing in the army. He loved to be disciplined and focused. So discipline was always very important in my house. Like getting bad grades was not allowed. You couldn't get anything less than a B. So my sisters and my brothers, it forced us to work really hard, but it was hard for me because education has always been hard for me, at least in America to me, because I would watch a lot of movies very young, and they would tell certain truths that I wouldn't learn at school. And when I would bring those truths to school, the teachers wouldn't like it, and I would always get in trouble. And, you know, I never really believed in doing homework. I used to always say that that's slave work. I used to say that all the time to the teachers, and, you know, I used to get kicked out of class a lot. I watched Malcolm X really young with Denzel Washington, and
It's
I
a great
remember that
movie.
he stood for something. And, that's more than just having a father. I tell people all the time, it takes a community to really raise somebody. Like, I'm an uncle, and like I said, I'm the youngest at 8, so I have a lot of nephews and nieces. And today is Saturday. The whole family just met up, and my dad, he's a chef, and he cooks so much. He grew up in a catering business with his mom, and my dad is one of 23. So
Wow.
you think my family's big? I have a very big family. Yeah, he's a very big family. And my dad's been cooking with his mom since he was a kid, and he cooks so much every day. If you go to my house, there's so much food. And all my brothers and sisters were coming to the house today, and everybody brought their kids. And I've been an uncle since I was 8 years old. So I've been responsible. I've been burping kids. I've been changing diapers for a really long time. And I do my best to be like my dad, but towards my nieces and nephews, because I don't have any kids yet. But I feel responsible for the children that are in my life and then the ones that I don't know as well.
No, it's true, and I'm always saying, and I said that in several episodes already, man. I'm a very firm believer in it takes a village. You know what I mean? Like I just, I grew up on Con Ave too, and I remember down there at the bottom of the hill in the cul-de-sac, and it was just, if you were to do something wrong, you would get beat by all the moms on your way home just for acting up, and then even worse from my mom for embarrassing her. You know what I mean? Like, so everybody had a part in making sure that all the kids were taken care of one way or the other. And I think like that, the way you said about me, this that caring personality. I think that's just one that came from my mom, because my mom is I would really like the matriarch. Even though my mom is like, I guess, the youngest out of her brothers and sisters, she's the one that they all look up to. She always takes charges and making sure that everybody's okay, bringing the family together, getting people in check when they need to be and stuff like that. So I've took a lot that from my mom, and kind of like I knew that was going to be my responsibility as I got older. You know what I mean? Like as she started going and having her time of peace, I was going to be the one that's going to have to try to bring people together and try to keep the family and all those things that she taught me growing up. And then, like you said, that part of that, being the community to raise your child and having that sense of responsibility for everybody. And now I know, like you were saying that about like you, I know you're really big on running. You train right now to be the fastest man alive.
Yeah,
You
every
know what I
single
mean?
day. I've been training like this since I was a kid. I've always understood that training was very important. I used to watch a lot of kung fu movies. I've always been into martial arts, and I'd watch a lot of Bruce Lee. I've always been small and skinny, but that's what I always liked about Bruce Lee. He was never really big, but he would hit and move like dynamite. And for me, that was everything. I was like, I don't have to be the biggest person in this world to stop Goliath. And I've been running my whole life, and I remember the first time I even like saw Bolt. I think he was 15 years old, and he won the world championships, and he was beating on 18-year-olds, and they were like, he's the fastest kid alive. And for me, I was so shocked because I was just like, I can take him. 'Cause I was 14 at the time, so he was a year older than me. And I just kept that to myself for a long time. I was just like, one day I'm going to meet up with him. And I actually got my opportunity, and it was an amazing experience.
And I want to get into that, because that's part of the things that I want to ask, as far as like being training and stuff like that. I'm like you mentioned, I guess you probably got it mostly from your dad being in the military and constantly training and stuff like that. But is that where your love of track and field came into? Was from your father, from watching Boulder? Where did that come from?
Well, it began, I believe it was 1992. I was watching the Olympics, and I was watching Michael Johnson.
Oh,
Michael Johnson was a very dominant runner, and I was watching just the way that the fans just were drawn to him, and just the energy behind the sports. I've always loved sports, not even just track and field. I love football. I love rugby. I love soccer, baseball, golf, tennis, you name it. I love the physical movement and the history behind these things. I like to educate myself on all these things and why they impact people. Like I study ballet to understand why hockey players and how basketball players could apply it, or even football players. So I like just everything about it. It's not even just the sport of it, but I was drawn to the Olympics, really young, and I always wanted the title of fastest man alive, because I was just like, it's an amazing title to have.
No, definitely, and you know what, and then that's another thing that I'm another very big firm believer in, is the law of attraction. You know what I mean? Like what you put out into the world, whatever energy, whatever desires, whatever thing you think about the most is what you're gonna be drawn to yourself. And like you said that too, like when you seen him, that you wanted to meet him and you were gonna do that, and you said that at a very early age, and you finally were able to do that. And then before I got that, because I know you actually run for Haiti.
Yeah.
And how did that come about?
Well, my running journey is really different than most people. Like I said, most of my siblings they ran throughout all the high school and everything. Again, it was really hard for me to run because I never did homework. I would score really high on test scores, but I didn't believe in doing homework. And I graduated high school with a 1.1 GPA, and that's for all 4 years. And I started doing some type of work junior year. So I was always in the worst class with the worst kids in the school. So homework isn't really what's on your mind anyways. You just survive class to get to the next class, to get to the next class, and you got to see the same people. But I wasn't really thinking about homework. My mind was in other places. And with track and everything, I was able to run a little bit for senior year. They tried to help me out because I was going to get kicked out of the school. And they brought my mom in, and, my brother Jordan just got kicked out of West Hill, and they were going to kick me out of Stanford High. And they were like, they're going to send me to Florida. And I was like, just let me run track. I was like, even if I don't stay on the team long, just let me show you that I have something more than just what I do regularly every day. And, my mom's in the office with Principal Korshitz, and she's like, okay. So they gave me a chance, and they moved me to a new English class with this teacher named Mr. Stone.
I love Mr. Stone.
Mr. Stone, you see?
Mr. Stone was amazing,
Mr. Stone,
man.
he was an amazing teacher, and he gave me a chance, and he helped me run on the team for indoor and outdoor. But every time I would get to the state meet, my grades would come through, and I would fail off the team again. So I never got a chance to pursue track far in high school. I only did it for a year. And then I tried to pursue it in college. It didn't work out there either because they said that I exhausted my eligibility because I went to mechanic school right after high school, and then I went to NCC for 2 years. So I wasn't able to run in college, and I just started training on my own. I went through a really tough time where my uncle died, a friend died, and just all these things were happening, and I wasn't able to run for the college. So, I was really just down. And, whenever I'm down, I use running as my antidote to push me and move me. It's like my boat that I row. And I was just training hard, and I just started competing in open meets on my own. I was like, screw it. I don't need anybody to be the fastest man in the world. I need myself. And I remember my brother Jeff told me that one time. I wanted to go to the University of Florida to run. And he told me, he's like, Steve, if you can make it in Connecticut, you can make it anywhere for this. He's like, if you're going to be the fastest man in the world, do it here. He's like, because there's no speed here. It's all privilege. He's like, if you could pull it off here, then you could do it. So I just kept competing, and then I started beating college kids who are All-Americans. And then I started being professionals. And then I remember the first time I beat my first Olympian. But by then, I was on like a track club with a man named Trevor Green. And during that time period, it was really hard because I was in college at Southern, and every day, like his training regimen, you had to do 4,000 push-ups a week and 4,000 sit-ups. And, I'm in college. So throughout the whole day, I'm doing push-ups. So I have to go from New Haven to New Jersey 5 days a week just to train because I want to make my country. And every week we're doing 4,000 push-ups. So that's about 600 every single day. And you still have to do the running training and everything else. That's just a part of it.
That's crazy, man. I mean, so I guess you did all that training and stuff like that. So how did you make it to the Haitian national team?
Well, you have to run a certain time in order to qualify. Once I ran the time that was necessary to run for Haiti, then I was able to finally get in contact with them, and then I was able to compete for them.
And that's what's up, man. And I think like that's some sound advice that your brother gave you. You know what I mean? Like really do it here. And it goes back to, like you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, when it comes out of the characteristics, confidence. I mean, you just exude so much confidence in yourself apart from anything else and really believe in yourself and didn't worry about what the outside world had to say. And when it came to that, I mean, like, how did you really deal with that negative energy? Did you ever just pay it any mind? Did it even bother you? You just really just completely ignored it?
Well, you can't really ignore it, and you can't push it aside. It's like work that you don't want to do sometimes, but you just have to get it done. And a lot of times, if you get the work done early, it'll bother you less in the end. A lot of times we let things stack up. So that's how I look at people bothering me. I don't try to let it bother me, but I deal with it in a different type of way. I'll confront things compared to just letting things build up. And, that's why a lot of people I feel explode because they don't confront things. When I'm in a race or when I'm playing football, I can't run away from somebody that is in my way. Sometimes you have to run them over. And that's life sometimes. Sometimes you have to feel that you're Superman and you have to push over that building that's on top of somebody. And sometimes that's the situations that we deal with. It's like a building on top of somebody. You have to push that building over. You don't want to, but you have to.
Right. So now, when you made it to the Haitian national team and stuff like that, now how did that transition into you meeting Bolt?
Well, that took a little time. I was talking to my country for a while. I was like, you guys got to send me to Jamaica. You got to send me to Jamaica. They're like, it's too expensive, this and this. And I was like, okay, you got to send me. You got to send me. And then I started working with my sister, Gina, and then she helped me financially, and I was able to go to Jamaica. I was competing for Haiti for about 2 to 3 years before I was even able to go to Jamaica. And it wasn't even just like to financially be able to get in. I have a friend from Trinidad. He's probably the fastest man in Trinidad. His name is Emmanuel Callender, and he's a 2-time Olympian. And he lived in Jamaica, and he trains in Jamaica as well, but he runs for Trinidad. And I posted a video one time on Facebook, and he contacted me. He's like, oh, Steve, I don't know anyone who loves training more than you. He's like, if you had the right coaching, he said that you could be so amazing. So I told him to put me in contact with the right people. And since he had trained with Racers Track Club, which is Usain Bolt's club and Glenn Mills' club, he put me in contact with them, and then that's how it started.
Nice, man. So you got there, you got to Jamaica, you got to train with Bolt and stuff like that. And through all that training, what is something that you learned about life, or what is something that you took out of that?
I had to learn to adapt, because when I got to Jamaica, the weather's different. It took me about 3 weeks to even learn how to breathe. And then from there, I had to deal with dehydration. I had to drink so much coconut water. I had to fully change my diet to adapt to the island, because the island is already a different altitude. So you have to learn how to adapt to that. And then you're dealing with the fastest club in the world. There is no slowing down when you're dealing with the Racers Track Club. They go so fast because this is the fastest club to ever exist. You have the fastest man in the world, the second fastest man, then you have the fourth, then you have the sixth, then you have the ninth. It's like 20 people in this team, but if you look at the roster, these are some of the best people that ever lived. So me being even able to go in there was just a blessing. When I entered the club, I was the slowest person there, so I knew I had to really, really work and adapt, because as they're getting faster, as the season goes, I have to adapt, because that's just the way I am. I'm constantly adapting. That was probably the biggest thing I learned in Jamaica, was how to constantly adapt with the fire that I was dealing with. And it's 95 degrees every day, and there was no shade. And it was just an amazing experience. A lot of people run away from the suffering of track and field, but I love the pain of sports. I like the experience. I like knowing that I'm earning everything that I'm doing, and I like to be involved. And being in Jamaica was a blessing for me, because I was able to go to a country that actually appreciates what I do. They love speed. There wasn't a day I was in Jamaica where I didn't hear Usain Bolt's name at least 10 times. And, Bolt was an amazing being. That's why I like the title of fastest man, because I got to see him as a human. You see him on TV, and even a lot of the fastest people alive, you get to see this guy for a glimpse, because you only see him at the Olympics, and you see him for 9 seconds. But to train with a person, to see his heartbeat, to see him throwing up, to see him tired, to see him be a human is different. And it's not the same. And then you see that. You're like, everyone suffers. Everyone has to go through this. So you're the best in the world. You're going to suffer the most because everyone's watching you. But he was a really good person. We would train, and I would see people come to the gate that didn't have money. And, he would give them things. And it wasn't about people watching. He was like a really good person. I can honestly say he was a really good person just from just watching him.
And that's one of the things that you said there that I think is all extremely amazing, is that you love the work. You know what I mean? You love the process. And I think that that's something that I also, and I believe it's a quote that Bolt has said too. You know what I mean? I have trained 4 years to run for 9 seconds. You know what I mean? Putting in that constant work, you know what I mean? A lot of people quit so early because they don't see results, or they don't think it's going anywhere, and they don't fall in love with the process, so they never really reach that goal. And I think that's a big thing, seeing him and yourself too. You fall in the process and look at all the doors that opened up for you because you did that. You fell in love with the work. You fell in love with the process. You stayed on your track, and you've been able to do so many amazing things. And because out of curiosity, I'm sure you're training and stuff like that. So how did you race against Bolt, and where did you end in that race?
You see, the thing with training is different than just racing. You see, in a race, that's where we come to perform for the world. It's like Rihanna. Who could sing better than Beyonce in a room? You don't really know. We would train together, but we never got to race in an actual race. I was supposed to go to the Olympics, but unfortunately, my country didn't select me to go. but we would train together. And in training, we would compete every single day because you have to hit a time every single time. That's the thing with track and field training. It's not like any other sport, meaning every single time I run a rep, I have to hit this time, and then my break is timed. My break would be 2 minutes. So you have 2 minutes to breathe, drink water, and just get everything together. If you have to throw up, you have to do it in that time limit. And every day you're racing time by time, and they're calling out the fastest times. And every single day, I'd be in the top 3 people every single time because it wasn't about me being faster than them. I have a runner spirit, meaning I push. I believe it's the Haitian inside of me. I fight with everything that I have, with everything that I'm doing. And they're running more relaxed than me, but I'm after being the best because you're not just racing Usain Bolt. Have you guys ever played Mario Kart? Mm-hmm. Well, the program is not just based off of Usain Bolt. It's based off of his fastest time when he broke the world record. So our regimen is based on him at his best. So I'm racing the person, and I'm racing a ghost. So every day I'm training with him, but I'm more focused on the time that I have to beat in order for the world record because I have a goal to run faster than everybody, not in a race, but in terms of top speed. Because to me, I feel like it's very critical for human beings to start focusing on this because it's very important. I think we don't take it serious at all in terms of like working on top speed.
So, and bringing that up on the top speed and stuff like that, I was going into that. Like, I know you've posted a couple months ago, the race to 30, trying to hit 30 miles an hour. And I know you're setting up something with the Stanford Police Department to race against one of their newer vehicles and stuff like that to do that top speed. Explain to me again, how did that come to be and just why is that so important to you?
Well, when you study any animal or just any species, they check to see how fast you go. When you check the cheetah, to see how fast it goes, you don't put 6 cheetahs together and see if they're going to race. They don't operate like that. Human beings are the only ones that put on tights and run to see how fast they are in order to determine how far we go. You knowing how fast a cheetah goes determines a lot of things, just like you knowing how fast a horse goes. It determines the horsepower. All these things matter. It's like knowing how fast a car goes. But we're letting it happen in terms of just in the hands of games. And I don't think that's responsible. So for me, I see other animals run with a machine. So I take the car and I run with the car because, since I was younger, living on Con Ave or Connecticut Avenue, there was a lot of drug activity. And when I was a kid, I would race cars back and forth over and over again. Everybody's like, Steve, why are you racing cars? I'm like, well, if I could beat cars, I could beat people. So I've been racing cars my whole life, and it's an exciting experience. But me racing the car allows me to create this invention that I've been working on called Ruby. Now, Ruby is a running buddy. Now, what it does is you run side by side with Ruby, and it helps you to complete your workouts. And I've been working with an invention company to build it. And that's why racing the car is so important. It's more than just trying to break the world record and trying to run 30 miles an hour. Because the world record right now is 27.8, and Bolt broke that 2009 in Berlin when he broke the world record when he ran the 100-meter. But that was in a race. I want to do it the way the animals are doing it because having a top speed matters. When you get into a car, that's the first thing you look at is how fast can this car go? Right. You need to know the capacity of the car. Doctors have to study the fastest man alive to know what is the output. How much energy can you put out there? Like when you study energy, there's a guy named Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson was taking steroids in the 80s, and he got in trouble, but they used to record how much energy he puts out. Ben Johnson, in 30 meters, was able to create over 3,000 watts. Now, 3,000 watts could power an entire city block. So sprinting is more than what we think it is. And doing this is very scientific for me and is different for me than everybody else. I mean, everybody wants me to be an athlete, but it's the science, and that's what pushes me because the faster humans go, you could check throughout history, the faster we go as people, we get faster cars, we get better medicine. Right. So for me, I want to save and protect this future. So I'm not running to entertain anybody. I'm running like Usain Bolt taught me that you can run with freedom, that peace, that joy, you see how that happiness. Mm-hmm. I'm running for war. I'm running for the war against sickness. If I can help to run fast to help people get better medicine, then I'm going to do it. I'm going against the war on violence. If I could help train firefighters and police officers to get to where they need to get faster to help people, that's what I'm after. That's why I'm using the speed. It's not just for me to go fast or to entertain or for people to see me. I want to be able to help doctors and nurses be able to train them and teach them certain things that I've learned with mechanics and help this future get better. I want to really put a shield around this world, but in the best way.
That's very powerful stuff, man. That's deep, man. And I've been, as you're talking about those things, and like you said, racing against a car and all those things. I'm actually listening to this book called The Mindset Makeover, right? Mm-hmm. And in the book, which I immediately thought of you because it talks about at one point in the world, right? Everybody said it was impossible to run a mile in under 4 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everybody said that like it can't be done. So they created this barrier or this limit on that like, you know what, that's it. That's the fastest that anybody's going to go. And so one man decided, you know what, I'm going to break that. That's going to be BS.
Yeah.
And, you know, he trained his butt off and he did it. He broke the 4-minute mile, right? And then after that point, after he did it, several other people started doing it. And it goes to say again, like number one, you have to create that limit. So like you said, I mean, right now they said the top speed is 27 miles per hour, but you're saying, you know what, I can do faster than that. And you're working on that, and because you're believing that, I'm positive you're going to hit that mark.
But
that
that was one of the reasons I even went to go see Bolt, aside from just the rivalry of wanting to race him. You know, he was the fastest kid, you know. But I wanted to understand because in Jamaica, you learn top speed, and top speed is very important, not even just with, like, me being a fastest man alive, but in terms of, like, another job I do. I train a lot of people in, like, football, like Jerome Cunningham. He was a friend of mine at Southern. He was on the Giants and things like that. And, like, people like Tariq Black, he's on the Colts right now. And, like, I've been working with these people at Breakout Athlete. And I work with Frank Quito, and we train athletes to get them faster, to prepare them for the next level. And we've helped so many kids get scholarships to schools. We've helped so many people become professional athletes. And it's like you're saving so much money, and this is happening in Connecticut, you know. And it's these little tools are, like, really pushing people to be better. So knowing these little things mattered. And I remember I told Frank, the owner of Breakout Athlete, I told him, like, if I go to Jamaica and come back, I'm like, I'm going to be able to really understand speed at the best level, because if I could take Bolt's speed at 27 miles an hour and apply it to football or basketball or rugby or hockey, I was like, there's so much power in that. A person like Russell Westbrook, he runs probably 18 to 19 miles an hour. The top soccer player runs probably 20 miles an hour to 19. And, you know, I represent Haiti, and one of the things I want to do is I want to train the athletes of Haiti, the people that play soccer, because if I could help the soccer players run 25 miles an hour and the fastest people in soccer run 20, I feel like it's going to give us a competitive edge. And I want to give my country an edge. It's not about just me. I want to be the scientist that sits in the lab and does the dirty work. Like, give me the work. I want it. I like doing group projects alone.
That's amazing, man. And I really admire everything that you're doing there and taking away from that. Now we know we have that, like you said, you're doing so much for the young generation, stuff like that, especially running and stuff. I know that you put me on, which I could thank you so much for that, for this coming weekend on the 7th, back to school event at the Boys and Girls Club. So tell me a little bit about that.
There's an organization called Heart and Purpose, and what they do is they create different programs, and then they take the proceeds and they donate to different charities. Like, they've done a lot of work in Haiti. My friend Vladimir Souffrant is the president. Nupsi Exantis as well, and Yves Pierre. They work with the community. They do a lot of great things, and they've done it many times before, and they're doing it again August 7th from 9, I believe, until 4, and they'll be giving out book bags from 12 until 2 o'clock. So if you got a chance to get down there, they're doing workshops for the kids. They're going to have different people coming in to talk to the kids and teach them different things that you need, like teach the kids things about, like, taxes and different things that they're not going to learn in school. They're going to get the best type of professionals to teach them. So you're getting more than just a book bag and just supplies. You're getting information that could really benefit you in the future.
And I think that that's huge too, because a lot of things, like we say, school doesn't really teach you about life, I don't feel, man. You know what I mean? Like, you just learn all these other things, but you don't, you said you don't learn how to pay your taxes. You don't learn, like, I mean, I went to school all that time, and I remember up until I was, like, maybe 25, I was still calling my mom to ask her how to fill out my tax form for a job.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they don't teach you anything that you really need, unless it depends on what you're going after. Unless you're going to continuously educate yourself, I don't really see school as a purpose. I feel like certain degrees and stuff like that, like to be a doctor, I feel like you need school. If you want to be a lawyer, I feel like you need school. If you're going to be an accountant, whenever you're playing with people's lives. But if you're going for business, I don't really think that you need school. I feel like a person that can't read or write can usually do business if they really know what they're doing.
And it is proven, man. Like some of the most richest people out there, you know what I mean? Like billionaire Mark Cuban, you know what I'm saying? Like he's huge and he really doesn't have that, you know what I mean? Like you don't he doesn't need to know the know-how. He knows how to get the people to get it done, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like and how to motivate and all that stuff, you
And
know?
that was one of the main reasons I went to college. I didn't want to just go for the experience. I mean, I really wanted to go for the experience, but I wanted to meet everyone in my life that I'd be able to work with. I wanted to meet the doctors, the nurses, the business people I was going to work with, just anyone that was doing anything in college. I want to meet them early because these are the people that are going to be in my life forever. And I just wanted to just be in their presence, learn who they were, and just try to give them the best time that they could have in a college environment.
And I know it's kind of like different from what it's not one of the questions I asked you, but I mean, as we've been talking here and stuff like that, I'm really getting to know more about you, man. You have an amazing mindset, man. That is absolutely incredible. Where do you think that came from, really?
It comes from my mom. My mom is a workaholic. My mom, she gave birth to me and she had a stroke. And it was
Wow.
She's born on October 7th. I'm born on the 8th. So she had a stroke on her birthday and then she gave birth to me. But she was working full time at the time. And I was supposed to be aborted because the doctor said that nothing good could come from me being born. And that was one of the things, that's why I push so much. People don't realize is because I was born, I guess I was in a coma after I was born and I had a kidney defect. It really messed me up and it put me in a very autistic place, I believe. That's what the doctor said I would be for the rest of my life. He was like, I won't be able to speak. I'll just be in a corner. I won't be able to run. I won't be able to move. So I had expectations of me even before I came out of my mother. And I remember my mother told me that she told the doctor, because she's a nurse at the time, she's like, you don't know who he's going to become. So you can't say anything to him or say anything about him. And I take that with me all the time. My mother has had 4 strokes. My mother just beat cancer, I believe, last summer.
Wow.
And she gained weight. The doctor said he's never seen someone gain weight while having cancer. And I remember the first time I saw her cut her own hair off, you know. Usually you lose your hair, but she was bold and she cut her own hair off. And she taught me really young. She's like, Steve, it doesn't matter who loves you in this world. As long as you love God and you put God first, it doesn't matter who likes you. So my confidence and my reassurance definitely comes from my mom. My dad is super confident too, but my mom, she's on a different level.
And I agree with you, man. I think that's something that we do have in common too, that we talked about in the past. Because, you know, when my mom had 2 miscarriages before she got pregnant with me. And when she was pregnant with me, the doctor said the same thing: either you have an abortion or you're gonna lose your life.
Wow.
You know, and she refused. And I think that's one of the things is that people need to really understand how powerful your mind and the mindset can be. You know, and like I said it before, and I'll say it again, man, we're only bound to the boundaries we create in our own mind. You know, and we only set up our own limitations. And that goes back to one of those quotes that I love too, is if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. You know, so I think that's huge, going back to, like you said about at the very beginning, is confidence. As I spoke with some other people too, is that confidence is very, very, very important to have in yourself. And I know that I struggle with it because I always felt like being confident just came off as cocky, or if I was loving myself or taking care of myself, I was coming off as being selfish and not caring. But as I started to grow and really understand is that, you know, if I'm not right, how can I make other people right?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And people, they're going to judge you. Some people are going to judge you. Some people are going to love you. And that's okay. You need both. You need duality in your life. You can't have good without the bad. And I understand that. Like, even when I go and I'm competing in a stadium and it's so loud that it's vibrating, like to run in a professional environment where it's so loud and there's thousands of fans, 50,000 fans, like a place like Penn Relays, as you're running, the ground is shaking. Like to experience that is insane. So it's like learning to run in an earthquake. That's what it's like to run professionally, because you only have a few seconds. And like I said, in that experience, you're going to have people that are going to come up to you. They're going to say horrible things to you, but then you're going to meet people that are going to feel like you blessed their life just by just competing a little bit. So you're going to deal with it. And that's a part of the game. You can't expect the blessings without the hardships. So once I believe you start to appreciate the hardships, they matter. And I think being able to visualize matters. I think in college, I was running for Hati at the time, and I was sponsored by Brooks. But I was training so hard at school, and everybody's like, Steve, why do you train so hard? I was like, I'm going to be seeing Usain Bolt soon. They're like, how do you know? I'm like, because I see him in my head every day as I train. I visualize that he's right near me every single day. But they're like, you're alone. I'm like, that's okay. He's going to be right near me. A year later, he was right near me. And that matters. And while I was training with Bolt, all I was visualizing was coming home. And I was training with Bolt in 2016. And I read this book called The Master Key System. And in it, it spoke about this strategy. It says, if you want to do something impactful with your life, it says, take a weekend, like 3 days, and take that time to yourself. And in that time to yourself, watch your favorite movies. You could write poetry, create stories, just do everything that you enjoy. Watch your favorite movies, do everything that you enjoy, and don't focus on people. And what you'll start to see is you'll be able to do a lot of work that you weren't able to do before because you're distracted by people. So I did everything it said. I was in Jamaica, and I bought the KFC in Jamaica, which is so amazing. I don't know what to tell you. I was eating like KFC every day, and I'm not even a KFC kind of person. But I did all these things, and I went into the room, and I locked myself away for 3 days. And in those 3 days, I was able to do a month's worth of work. And I couldn't believe all the work I did ignoring everybody. So I told myself, I was like, when I get home, I'm not going to compete. I'm not going to do any of these things. I was like, I'm going to lock myself in a room and quarantine myself for 3 years. I was like, if I can learn a month's worth of work in 3 days, what can I do in 3 years? So I was like, I'm going to take 3 years to plan the next 50 years of my life. And that's what I did.
And I guess that comes to the next thing is it's like planning and locking yourself up. So is that during the time how you developed the kid energy?
That's how I was able to do it because I locked myself away in a room for 3 years. And during that time, I had these standards that I had to hit. I wasn't allowed to hang out with my friends. I wasn't allowed to do certain things in terms of physical fitness. Like I wasn't allowed to go to the gym. I wasn't allowed to lift any weights to have strength. I wasn't allowed to do push-ups or sit-ups. I had to fast every single day until 5 p.m., which was really hard because my dad's a chef. So he's cooking all day long, and I could just smell the food. And I had to just suffer because what I started understanding about karma when I was in that room, I started understanding that if I could make myself suffer for a good cause, then it was important because I was creating a program for the kids of Haiti. You know, I've been to Haiti. I've helped create national championships down there, and I remember I brought sneakers down there, and a lot of the kids didn't have shoes, and that really bothered me. And I remember at one point I was stranded in Haiti after that national championship, which was crazy because I couldn't get past the borders in the DR, and I was stranded in Haiti, and that experience was different because I was in a place where I couldn't even wear shoes anymore, and I was just barefoot, and I'll never forget that. And in Haiti at nighttime, they turn the lights off in like the whole country, depending on where you are, meaning it's just darkness everywhere. And I remember looking into the mountains and you just see all the rich people with their lights on and their lights were like stars. And I just sat there. I was just like, kids have to see this every single day. They have to deal with this every day. And I was just like, I will never be in this position again. And when I meant by I was just thinking about the kids of Haiti. I was like, I will never be in this position. So I put myself in the room and I didn't eat till 5 because I'm like, well, there's a little kid in Haiti that I'm going to help who probably doesn't eat his first meal till 5. I was like, I'm not allowed to, I also wasn't allowed to have money in my pocket. The only people that could give me money were people that cared for me and wanted to invest in what I was doing. I wasn't allowed to compete. I wasn't allowed to take sponsorships. I wasn't allowed to do any of these things. I remember turning down $1 million contract in Jamaica from Adidas. Because I remember I was training in Jamaica and, you know, you're on the best team, so Adidas is always there. And I remember they came for a week and I was doing really well. And, you know, they asked about me and I spoke to the guy that was in charge and he's talking to me. And then he made the offer and he was like, Adidas would like to sign you. And I was just like, with all due respect, I would want to, but I'm working on my own brand. And because I'm working on my own brand, I think it'd be irresponsible for me to represent you. And he was like, you wouldn't represent us for $1 million. I was like, I would love to, but I know that if I have to represent you, I'm most likely going to have to stay in Jamaica, number one. And then I was just like, well, number two, I live in Connecticut. $1 million could only go so far. I know it's a lot of money, but I'm going to buy a house and then that's going to be it. So I was like, if Adidas feels that I'm worth $1 million, then I could build a brand that's worth $1 million.
That's what's up, man. So And now just break it down because I went through the training for the kid energy and stuff like that for the people listening. Like, what is kid energy and how they can go about it, and what do we get out of it?
Well, kid energy is what I learned from Usain Bolt because I'd watch Bolt train and he would be so happy training. And I have a warrior's mindset. I have a like die, like kill or be killed mentality when I'm training. And I'm watching him train every day. And he just has this pleasantness about him. It's very interesting. He's like this happy person as he's training, even when he's suffering. And as I was in the room, I was just remembering all the experiences, because it's hard to remember everything that you experience in a year. And it was just understanding what he was doing. And I saw what he was doing in little kids because I have a lot of nieces and nephews. And I watched the way they run and enjoy themselves, like the happiness that it brings them. And I just started researching more and more and started just understanding what was going on. And your kid energy is your adrenaline that you're using, and it powers you. When you're a kid, you're running and you're using the adrenaline in your stomach in order to just keep on going. And you don't recognize it when you're younger, but it gives you the energy that you need. As you get older, that adrenaline, you don't use it as much, and it starts to be used in different ways. But when you're a kid, you don't have any stress. So all your adrenaline goes to playing. When you're an adult, your adrenaline goes to getting things done. So kid energy is about teaching you how to love running and working out again. It teaches you, it's like when Peter Pan forgot how to fly, when Robin Williams played him in Hook. He forgot how to fly. He forgot how to be Peter Pan. Now, we get older as people and we forget the joy that we had as kids running around. We get older and we hate life. Kid energy gives you that boost that you need. It gives you that energy. And you've tried it and you run faster than you've ever run in your whole life.
Yeah, man. And being a parent now, like as you're saying that, I see that in my daughter and in my son. She's constantly running through the house, just running everywhere. No matter what it is, she's got to run. You know what I mean? And I'm just constantly telling her just not to run in the house and try to give her space, but she's just running everywhere. And even for myself too, I remember that, and like I told you too, back in the day before school started, we'd be in the parking lot down the hill and we'd have that race at the end of the parking lot and back, man. And I was just running everybody, man. That was just so much fun.
I could honestly say that growing up on Connecticut Avenue really made me who I was because it was a very competitive place that had so many great athletes and people. And although it was a very dangerous place, I feel like that danger prepares you for life in every single way. And I learned I was a different person because, my parents used to put us in Catholic school. And I would go to school with a lot of rich kids. And then I live in a bad neighborhood. And when the teacher would say certain things, I used to look at her crazy because my experience in life was different than theirs.
Right.
It was just very different. And the way I was raised, I was racing for money very young. So that's why I never understood when they were saying that Bolt's the fastest kid in the world because, he started racing at 11. I was racing kids by the time I was 5 because, my older brothers and siblings, I used to watch my brother Jeff race people all the time on Connecticut Avenue. He used to race gangsters, and there were some people where I thought if he beat them in a race, they were going to kill him. And that's the energy. And then he would beat them, and then I would race their little brother, and I would line people up, and I would race them. So racing's always been something big in my life. I've always enjoyed it. And like you said, racing as a kid is just the most exciting thing. And I want to bring that to the city of Stamford. I want to make Stamford the fastest city. I want to teach people kid energy to power themselves because sprinting helps you burn 1,200 calories in 15 minutes. Now, you could jog for an hour, but you're only going to burn 600 calories. So I say learn how to sprint correctly from someone who's learned from the absolute best ever. So this way it's easier on your body, and that's what I want to do. I want to be able to help anyone from kids to older people because learning the physics can help a little kid walk faster, which will help them get to their bottle earlier, which will help them progress faster in life. And just like an old person who can't walk the same, I could teach them mechanics that can help them be strong so they could live an extra 5 to 10 years.
And that's amazing, man. And we'll definitely drop the links and stuff like that so people can get in contact with you and learn more about the kid energy and go from there. And as we wind it down, man, I got two last questions for you. And actually, before even those questions, man, just want to back on the whole Con-Af thing because, I've always said that, man. I loved growing up on there too, man. Yeah. I love growing up on the app. It's just, the community doesn't make the people make the community. Yeah. And there's just so many amazing people, like, you know what I'm saying? And as I've gotten older and starting to see a lot of people where I grew up at, where I came from, doing such amazing things, like as yourself, running for Hati, training with Bolt and stuff like that, and everything you're being able to accomplish, and to think of where we came from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like to what you've been able to do, you know, also, and I shout him out too, my boy Jay DeLeese, who's out there making music and stuff like that and doing a big thing. And just, again, coming from Con Ave and just having that mentality and seeing those things and the people around them encouraging him, growing not to be where they are. And even for myself, you know, I always knew, you know, just I was meant for more. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to be another pawn on the chessboard.
No, not
you know
at
what I
all.
mean?
Not at
Like I'm here to do something special, and I think that's the mentality that we all grew up because where we came from and being interacting with those people. So I just wanted to shout out the Ave real quick before we go on.
Yeah,
You know what I
because
mean?
I tell people all the time, it's a really big neighborhood, and because it's a big neighborhood, even growing up, I would have to compete against so many different neighborhoods. I remember I was 8 years old and I had to play football against the down, like at the dead end, and I'm 8 and I have to stop Ederson. And I don't know if you guys know who
Yeah.
Ederson was. Ederson was like a god as a kid. That's the only way to describe him. Like he could do anything, and he was the most unstoppable kid. And my brother Jeff demanded that I stop him. And I remember I was just in this zone, and I couldn't stop him because even my brother Jordan couldn't stop him, and he was his age. And I was so angry, and my brother yelled at me. He was like, he said, "Stop him." You know, he cursed. I'm not gonna say what he said, but and I hit him really hard, and I sent him home, and we won that game. And that's probably the only time I've ever hit Ederson in my whole life. And that's all it took to win that game, but I learned so much. And growing up, I remember he would chase me every single day for freshman beatdown. Yeah, because he was my brother Jordan's friend. So, you know, everybody got one day. They chased me every day for the whole year. And, you know, I never fought it. I embraced it because they're like bigger brothers to me. So, and I always loved the community. I always loved the people there. I've always loved Con Ave. I train there every day. I'm on that hill. You will see me skating. You will see me running. You will see me making moves. I really want to make a movie and just call it the Ave, because I want people to see what I saw. But there's so many perspectives to that. I mean, I don't know if that's something you'd be interested in the future, but
No, definitely. I think it's huge because you know what, and I said this one before. Like, I got my nickname from my neighbor Jeff, Freddie Fox. He gave me that nickname very, very early when I was young, man. And I remember going to his house, and he was just so welcoming. You know what I mean? And a lot of people in the neighborhood, a lot of people, you know, may have looked at these people, individuals, as drug dealers and gangsters and all these things from what they've seen. And yeah, they were involved in some things that were pretty shady. But when it came to us kids, you know, they really protected me. Like him in question, like he said, I would go over there every day and I would play, you know, I would play Super Nintendo with him. We'd play video games together. And, you know, when the other people came in and they was going to get into that activity, he'd send me home.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he didn't keep me involved. He didn't want me to get in there. He sent me home and was like, you know what? You don't need to be a part of this. And I thank them for that because I got to see both sides of it, you know what I mean? And knowing that, you know, regardless, again, the community, they were always protecting us. Everybody was looking out.
And I really like that about communities when they really help out. And that was one thing I really liked about being an athlete. You know, I used to just always watch the impact that an athlete could have in a neighborhood, meaning I watch how a lot of people could get harassed in the neighborhood, but they usually leave athletes alone. And I've always watched that. And, you know, I started just paying attention to history, even when I watch movies like Gladiator, and I watch a gladiator oppose the Caesar, and everyone just watched and nothing happened. And I realized athletes are very powerful because they create a lot of energy in this world, and you can see their work. And they kill popes, they kill presidents, they kill all types of people in this world, but it's rare that you see them kill athletes. Athletes have a different energy, and you know their work is real. Even if they do steroids, you still have to work for it to work. And
Right.
I've always noticed that in the community, so I've always, in my community, I've always tried to help the kids play sports so they have a better chance. And, you know, when you're an athlete, I always feel like you could become a leader in your community, you know. There's been a lot of great athletes come from our neighborhood, and I always appreciated that we were able to develop so many people. Like, it was always a great experience doing that.
No, absolutely. So as we're going down there, we winding down, man. I got, like I said, two last questions for you. So number one, for yourself, what do you feel is the best advice you've ever received?
I've received some pretty good advice. I recently asked my dad. I asked him, I came in from training and he was cooking, you know. I've always looked up to him because he was always living his dream of owning a restaurant. And, you know, we're working towards building a family restaurant as well. And I always was inspired because I would see him live his dream every day, so I'd live my dream. And I came in the house, this was a few months ago, and I was like, Poppy, what does it take for someone to be great at something? And he thought about it. And he was like, well, In order for you to be great at something, you have to be comfortable. If you're not comfortable doing it, then you're going to be anxious and you're not going to be able to do the best job that you can. He's like, but in order to be comfortable, you got to actually love what you're doing. He said, if you could put love there, then you'll always get what you want and you'll always be unstoppable.
And that is completely true, man. Like they always say that quote, you know what I mean? Like, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
I get to run around as fast as I want. I've been doing this since I was a kid. Like, I love what I do. Like, they pay me to go fast. That is so much fun. And I love what I do. I never looked at it as work. That's why when I was in the room and I couldn't work for all those years, I couldn't touch money, I didn't care, like, because it's just like, I'm so inspired that I get to wake up every day and just work on different things. I get to work on theories. I get to create things, and everything is so futuristic because, I want to go to space one day. I see everybody going to space, but I want to go to space and I want to make all these things possible. That's why I want to be the fastest man alive. I want to do more than any other fastest man alive has done before.
And I mean, like I said, man, with your mindset and your mentality, man, you're definitely going to be able to accomplish and do all those things. So continue doing what you're doing, continue having that mindset. I know it's not going to change, but I respect you, man, and I thank you for what you're doing and just really this conversation, man. I really just speaking with you has made me grow in this last hour that we spoke, and I really, really mean that. So, and lastly, I guess I would say is looking at the younger generation and the people that are coming up after us and stuff like that, what is some advice you would like to offer them?
Kids are smart, but they wait, meaning they feel as if everything should be given to them. Nothing is given to anyone. Everything must be earned. You must merit everything. So I try to help my nieces and nephews every day, and I see that it works. And I try to give them all the information I can. I try to train them the best I can. I try to help them. I don't let them wait until life comes to them. I don't allow them to wait because I don't wait. I go after all my sponsorships. I contact Jamaica. Like, I make things happen. And that's what they need to constantly do, is to constantly make things happen, because they have access to more information than any other generation before them.
Absolutely.
So if they could take that and actually wield that Excalibur sword, I feel like they could be unstoppable. So that's the most important thing. Really go after it. Really be hungry and really want it, because everything you want in this world is in your hands. It's like the Philosopher's Stone, you just got to know how to wield the power. Wield the power.
And that's what's up, man. I think, like I said, a lot of things, the key takeaways from this conversation is huge. Like you said, confidence, character, loving what you do, putting in that work. And as you were saying that, too, as far as, like, go out there and take it, like, I think it's one of those quotes, too. It's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. You know what I mean? Like, go out there and do something. You know what I mean? Like, make it happen, because you will sit around and wait forever. And perfect example, and I'll even take it to myself, you know what I mean? Like, I had the idea of really going through with a podcast 2 years ago, right? I went out, I bought the equipment, I was telling everybody I was doing stuff like that, and number one, I think the biggest thing is that I wasn't confident enough in myself at the time. I just wasn't sure that, like I said, that I was, like I told you before here, the 20, 40, 60 rule, you know what I mean? I was worried too much about what other people were going to think or say or perceive it and stuff like that, and I wasn't really worried about what's going to make me happy. And since I've started doing this and stuff like that, this brings me the most joy and happiness that I've ever had in doing something, because I love having conversations with people. I love doing these things, and it's one of those things I'm not asking for permission. You know what I mean? I'm going out, I'm seeking people to interview, I'm sitting down with conversations, stuff like that. And the more you take action, the more you do stuff, the more things come to you, the more fluid things start to happen and stuff like that, and the more the doors open, because you're not being stagnant. Because what happens is stagnant water, it goes bad. You know what I'm saying?
If you want to, like, take an example of anyone, watch the Energizer Bunny. He self-powers himself. And as humans, you self-power yourself. We're very electric beings. So the more you do stuff, the more you're going to be able to do. It's like a baby that's growing. The more it's able to do, it could walk, it could feed itself, it's doing. But as you get old, you don't do as much. So do as much as you can, and you're going to get energy to do it. The best CEOs in the world, they wake up every day and work out before they go to work. So do, and then you're going to receive everything that you did.
No, absolutely, man. Well, thank you so much for talking with me and stuff like that. I really appreciate our conversation and everything out there. Again, I wish you the best in your race at 30. I know it's going to happen, your mission to space and all those things, and continue with everything, the kid energy, and things are going to continue to blossom for you. So thank you, everybody, for taking the time to listen with me and sit here. As I always say, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done, your big brother loves you. Stay blessed.